If you enjoy this episode, please rate, review, and share it so that we can reach more ECEs and childcare workers. My name is Rachel Neville, and I am the Membership Coordinator and Policy Analyst at the AECEO. Today, we are so excited to welcome Carolyn Ferns to Circle Time. Carolyn is the Public Policy Coordinator at the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare. Carolyn is a board member of both Childcare Now and the Childcare Resource and Research Unit. Formed in 1981, the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare, or OCBCC, is Ontario's central advocacy group for a universal, affordable, high-quality, public and nonprofit system of early childhood education and care. Thank you so much for joining us, Carolyn. We're so happy you're here.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
So I guess to get things started, how did you become involved in work with childcare in general and the OCBCC?
I went to school to be an early childhood educator. I did early childhood education at what is now Toronto Metropolitan University. I think my plan when I first went into school was to be a kindergarten teacher, but after seeing that system from the inside and the frustration and challenges that educators and teachers were facing there, that gave me pause. And then experience working in and placements in childcare, I realized that actually that was not only a workplace that I enjoyed, but age groups that I really liked. I really love working with infants. And so I graduated and thought that I would be an infant ECE. That's what I wanted to do. But I'd say what's motivated me in a move toward policy and advocacy is a sense of frustration with the way the system is organized. I remember early on, I was in the staff room and there was a newspaper article up that was about a latest study of childcare worker wages and early childhood educators' wages. And for me, that was like this moment of epiphany because I realized that I knew that our center was struggling to pay people decently, but a national study showed this was actually a Canada-wide problem. And I knew that our center was struggling, with high fees that families couldn't afford to pay, but this again was a Canada-wide problem. Lack of spaces was a Canada-wide problem. So I realized that this frustration that I felt with the sector, I needed to engage with policy and advocacy. And if I really believed this was a Canada-wide problem, it was something that needed a Canada-wide solution. So I went to work then at the Childcare Resource and Research Unit doing policy research. And again, I think that that same sense of frustration that I knew there was so much research and evidence on what needed to happen, but it wasn't something that governments were listening to. And so that drove me more into the advocacy side because I thought we really needed to build the power of our voices and the power of our collective action to ensure that governments actually moved ahead on a universal affordable childcare system and decent working wages for early childhood educators.
Yeah, I feel like your story will resonate with a lot of people. And that moment of realizing this was bigger than just you as one person or as a one childcare program, but this was like everywhere. I think that that's a really, powerful realization to have.
Yeah, and I think, I at first that feeling of frustration or helplessness about, these are huge problems, right? And one person can't solve them. And I might think I understand what needs to change, but I can't change on my own, right? But understanding that when we find other people, other like-minded people, people who share the same values, people who want to see the same change, and we come together with them and we're working and advocating for change, for me, that's always helped me address that sense of frustration personally that I feel, because it's not just one other thing on my plate. It's the thing on my plate that actually nourishes me. It makes me feel like it gives a sense of control back, right? It's a sense of like you can take back that locus of control. It's not like we're helpless in this. Mm-hmm. If we come together and work together, we can make change. And that's very satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks may know that the OCBCC and the AECEO do a lot of collaborative work. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious how you would describe your approach to collaborating with us and why you think that's important.
Sure. I mean, I have to say, before I joined the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare, I didn't really realize the potential of that close collaboration with the Association of Early Childhood Educators. When I joined the coalition, it was the fact that the Association of Early Childhood Educators, we shared the same office, right? And I thought, oh, well, okay, well, that's like just a rental agreement. Why are we, the two organizations are sharing the same space. But I also was very close friends, and I had worked before with two AECEO staff members at the time, Lindsay McDonald and Shani Halfon. And so we had a natural sense of collaboration, and I realized that it makes total sense. The Professional Association for Early Child Educators would collaborate well with the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare. Our roles are slightly different, right? Like for the coalition, we're focused on licensed childcare, right? For the most part. I mean, it's not that we don't care about the broader early years and childcare sector, but our mandate is on advocating for a universal childcare program. And then, of course, the Association of Early Child Educators, your mandate's different. You're looking at the sector as a whole, but with a focus on those who work in the sector and registered early child educators, no matter where they work in Ontario. But of course, like the common point is that we both see that decent work and pay for early child educators is absolutely foundational to having a quality program for early years in childcare in the province. And, our advocacy roles are also a little different. Like the AECEO is a registered charity, and so that puts certain limits on the types of advocacy you can do, and the coalition isn't. So, I mean, our role is much more directly political, and it can be. In that, that would we call the big A advocacy, also nonpartisan, but, we come at those in different ways, and we found ways to collaborate on projects and on campaigns that really bring out the strengths of both organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm especially thinking about some of the policy work, like the roadmap that was written in collaboration, and having more minds on something that important is always a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that we realized that the two organizations, like, we share really fundamental values. And for the coalition, early child educators are at the heart of the program, right? It's always been like our three big ideas are affordable fees, decent work, and enough spaces for all. And yeah, in developing the roadmap, I think it made total sense to have as this vision document, something that set out the shared, vision between the association and the coalition. And all of our members and allies, right? We're both membership-based organizations. We represent early child educators, childcare programs, and allies across the province, all of which share this common vision.
For sure. Yeah. And it's also making me think about what you said earlier around coming together and not feeling that sense of hopelessness, but that sort of community building and working together. That sort of energy and atmosphere is just can only be positive, really, for our goals.
Yeah.
So you've talked a lot about so far the experience you've had working in the role. How do you feel that the work that you do impacts the lives of ECEs and families?
Yeah, that's a good question. When we look at what's changed in early years in childcare, I mean, I've been at the coalition now, it's like for about 10 years. And it's easy for us. I'm often a doom or gloom. Like, it's always like, is the glass half full or half empty? My glass is always half broken. But, so it's easy to feel doom and gloom about things because there's always crises in the moment, right? And right now is a time when we feel like, there's multiple crises hitting us at every given time. But there has been a lot of progress. I think that, here in Ontario, we had a lot of stops and starts because we had, under the previous provincial government, this promise for 100,000 new childcare spaces, free preschool childcare. I always say that if that had actually happened, like, my kid would have had free preschool childcare, but of course, it never ended up seeing the light of day, unfortunately. So we had these senses of, when are we going to see some measurable progress? There were all these promises that had happened. I think that before we came into a point where we actually got the federal government engaged, the biggest win that I saw was the $2 an hour wage enhancement grant at the provincial level, which at the time was seen as being, was really big. It was the first real money that had been put toward early child educators' wages. It wasn't nearly enough, but it was something, and it was something the province was doing. The experience of the pandemic and finally getting the federal government engaged in a real way on childcare. I mean, the progress that we've seen in the last 4 years on childcare, I always say the progress in the last 4 years is more than happened in childcare policy in the 4 decades that preceded it, right? There's no comparison. Like the fact that families are now seeing their childcare fees go down, when in Ontario it had just been skyrocketing year upon year, the highest fees in the country. And we hear from families about what a difference that makes for them. The two terms that come up all the time are game changer and lifesaver, right?
Wow.
That for families, this is making a measurable change. But every other bill in their household expenses is going up. Groceries are going up, rent is going up, children's clothes are going up, everything costs more. To have affordable childcare makes a real difference for them. I think the biggest frustration and the thing that we really need to push on more is around early childhood educators in the Canada-wide system, because not just here in Ontario, but across the country, there hasn't been enough progress made to ensure decent work and pay, and to ensure we have the workforce to staff the programs if we're going to expand. And Ontario, of course, is the furthest behind of almost any province on that front. We haven't seen as much change there, but even there, we now have a wage floor. Before this came in, the wage floor was minimum wage, right? So, it's not that we haven't seen any progress, we haven't seen enough progress, and we have things to push on there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And your work also with the Parents for Childcare group, I imagine, has also sort of brought to light what families are experiencing, and those two keywords that keep coming up.
Yeah, so we worked with the coalition and the AECEO as well to support a group of parents that had come together that really wanted to start a formal advocacy group of their own to bring together a network of parents across Ontario. And it had been a long time building up, and a lot of groundwork had to go into making that happen. But now there's Parents for Childcare, and once that group was established, we found that parents are flocking to it. From November when they launched to today, about 2,000 new parent contacts have joined the network. And what we've seen is that they're parents who are experiencing more affordable childcare, and they want to defend the system. They want to see it strengthened and expanded so more parents can access it. They're parents who are frustrated because they're on a wait list and they can't access childcare, and they want to know why, and they want to advocate to make it better. But there's also parents, I'd say a good core group of parents, and growing awareness amongst all the parents in the group about the importance of advocating for decent work and pay. And we've seen this change since the Canada-wide system has come in, that now that parents' fees aren't directly linked to wages, right? It's not the same problem that childcare centers had before, that if they wanted to raise wages, they had to raise fees, and fees were already unaffordable, and parents didn't want to see them go up. But that's been broken now. And so there's this new bridge has been built, this opportunity for solidarity between parents and educators, where parents, they know how important early childhood educators are. They see it every day. They see it in the work that educators do with their children. And they're more able now, and growing understanding of the need to advocate for early childhood educators for decent work and pay.
It's amazing to hear the opportunities, not just for families, but also for them to get involved in advocating for ECEs, and the allyship that can build there.
And just the growing knowledge, right? That there's, sometimes it's just that somebody's never thought about something, right? Like, we was on this Parents for Childcare organizing call, and some of the parents were talking about the advocacy that they had done for better wages for the staff in their center. And this mom said, she was really honest, and she said, thank you guys for talking about this, because I have to admit, I never thought about that. I think of myself as somebody who tries to make ethical decisions, but I just got my name onto all the lists. I went to the center that I got into. I didn't think to ask about what ECEs were earning or what their benefits were. I didn't know there was a big difference across the sector. But how would she know? She's new to this sector, right? She's just started. Parents for Childcare has opened up this space where these conversations are happening more with families, and then it kind of spreads, right? Parents talk to parents, and it becomes something that they're like, okay, no, this is what we have to talk about and ask about. And I think that parents also know, they see the childcare staffing crisis firsthand. My child's favorite ECE, when he was in the infant room, I know she's no longer working in the sector because she couldn't make a living. So, parents know that personally. And I think that having those opportunities for their advocacy is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One of the things that I think has been really good about Parents for Childcare is it gives parents somewhere to go. We're constantly asking our members to reach out and have conversations with families. And I think that's a good thing, right? But we've also heard back from our members that they're not always comfortable doing that they don't always feel like, and certainly not doing it again and again, right? Every time we have a campaign, like having it again and again. And one of the things about Parents for Childcare is it gives parents a place to go where they're talking with other parents and getting involved in advocacy through that route. And so it frees up educators to be like, you can just tell them about Parents for Childcare, and then that's somewhere that they can go to get involved. This gives another option. Just put the Parents for Childcare flyer up on your bulletin board, and believe me, they're going to come and find out about it.
If listeners want to get involved with Parents for Childcare, they can go to childcareontario.org/parents and reach out to connect. So, Carolyn, I mean, you've mentioned a few of the major successes that really stand out for you in the past 4 years. So I'm wondering, what kind of things are you hoping for to see next in childcare?
I think that.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip. Jess in the editing room, please put that with the Parents for Childcare conversation. Okay, here's my outro.
We have in place the foundation of the 10-a-day plan. I think that we're having to make sure that the federal government follows through with it, and of course that the Ontario government follows through with it, because they have the history here in Ontario of being the last province to sign on and have not implemented the system as well as they have in other provinces. So, I mean, I think we have to ensure we still have the support at the federal level. But here in Ontario, I think we have to push our provincial government to ensure that they're not just implementing the 10-a-day plan, but actually our province has a role in what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. I've been very frustrated with some of the messages I've heard from the Ontario government. What's our provincial vision here in Ontario for childcare? And they say, well, we have to just have our head down implementing the federal plan. But if the federal plan had never come along, childcare was always a provincial responsibility. All of these issues would have been things that the province would have been pushed on, right? Affordability for families and expanding spaces. The fact that the federal government stepped up and provided funding to make fees more affordable and provided funding to expand spaces doesn't mean that the province is excused from actually stepping up and doing something themselves, right? So I think that on wages, on having a wage grid and benefits and pensions, I think that's something the Ontario government should be doing. Those programs that are not part of the Canada-wide system, so school-age childcare, for example, I think Ontario should be doing more to ensure that those programs are both affordable and expanded. So yeah, there's a lot to push on here in Ontario and our province to make sure that they're not just implementing the 10-a-day plan well, but they're actually stepping up and making positive change themselves.
I feel like the theme of today is collaboration between federal and provincial parents and ECEs and both our organizations. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insight and thoughts. It was so great to chat with you.
Thanks. Great. It's really good to talk to you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a member. The link to join us will be in the episode description. Your membership makes a difference in the lives of ECEs and childcare workers, children and families, and allows us to continue doing this work. To all the members currently supporting us, thank you so much. To all the ECEs and childcare workers listening, you are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for all the work you do.